In Kentucky, a judge is supposed to uphold the law, protect the vulnerable, serve justice. Tim Nolan didn't just break that oath. He weaponized it. Timothy Lee Nolan, District Court Judge in Campbell County, Kentucky. Served from 1978 to 1986. City Solicitor. School Board Member. Leader in the Campbell County Republican Party. Self-appointed chairman of Donald Trump's presidential campaign in Campbell County. A man with power. A man with connections. A man who knew the justice system inside and out. And for over a decade, he used that knowledge to exploit, manipulate, and traffic vulnerable women and children. Here's how he did it. Nolan would hang out at a local women's shelter. He volunteered at drug court. Not because he cared, because that's where he found his victims. Women addicted to opioids. Women who were desperate. Women who had nowhere else to turn. He offered them drugs, heroin, pills. And when they were hooked, when they needed that next hit, he made his demands. Sex acts. For drugs. For a place to stay. For him to not call the police. 19 victims. 7 of them under 18 years old. All but 2 were addicted to heroin or other opioids. The special prosecutor, Barbara Whaley, described it plainly. She went jail after jail after jail to talk to these women, to understand what it means to be dope sick. 5 or 6 times worse than the worst flu. Body aches that make you willing to do anything to get another hit. That's what Nolan used. Not a weapon, not physical force, addiction. Despair. And his connections in the justice system. He threatened to call law enforcement. He threatened to have them evicted. He used his status as a former judge to intimidate them into silence. One teenage victim wrote in her impact statement, "Tim Nolan, I want to say you ruined my life. You ruined my childhood, teenage years, and made me lose hope. I hate you." Another wrote, "Tim Nolan knew vulnerability when he saw it. He used my addiction as a tactic for control." Nolan was arrested in April 2017, charged with 28 felonies: rape, human trafficking, witness tampering, prostitution, unlawful transaction with a minor, sodomy. 28 felonies, 22 victims. He initially pleaded not guilty. Then in February 2018, at age 71, he changed his plea, guilty to 21 counts involving 19 victims. The deal called for 20 years in prison and a $100,000 fine. At his sentencing, the judge called it one of the oddest cases I've ever seen. Nolan read a statement in court. He asked for forgiveness from God, his victims, and his family. He asked for probation. He said he could still contribute to society. "I'm so sorry for my crimes, even though I'm a first offender with a low risk to reoffend." A first offender. 19 victims over more than a decade. A first offender. He promised to fight his demons and addictions, but the prosecutor had the last word. After Nolan quoted the Bible in his plea for leniency, Barbara Whaley said, "Jesus forgave the thieves who were beside him on the crosses." Forgiveness is always available to those who ask, but Jesus did not recall the punishment of those thieves. Their punishment was imposed. Tim Nolan was sentenced to 20 years in prison, eligible for parole after 4 years. For 19 victims. For trafficking children. For using his robe and his connections to exploit the most vulnerable people in his community. He must pay $110,000 in asset forfeiture to the Human Trafficking Victims Fund. He is required to register as a sex offender for life. As of 2026, he remains incarcerated. But here's what should haunt you. Tim Nolan wasn't caught because the system worked. He was caught because eventually the weight of 19 victims became too much to bury. For over a decade, a former judge volunteered at drug court, hung out at a women's shelter, and nobody questioned it. Nobody asked why a powerful man with a robe and connections was spending so much time around vulnerable, addicted women. The system didn't protect those women. The system gave Nolan the tools to exploit them. A judge's title, a lawyer's knowledge of the law, connections in law enforcement. All of it turned against the people the system was supposed to protect. 19 victims, 7 children, and a man who sat in a courtroom for years calling himself a servant of justice. The next time someone tells you the system works, remember Tim Nolan. Remember that a judge trafficked children for over a decade using nothing more than his status and the desperation of the people around him. And remember that it took 19 victims before anyone noticed.